Sunday. It is really good to see each and every one of you. To me, the cross means that having the opportunity to experience the everlasting love of God and Jesus, and the opportunity to respond to it by loving others. Standing in the shadow of the cross reminds me of that tremendous love. It's a challenge. And it challenges me to share with others who are searching for what I have found in the shadow. When it was the evening of that day, the first day of the week, and the doors of the house where the disciples had met were locked for fear of the Jews. This comes from John 20, 1931, if you want to follow along. Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands. The disciples rejoiced when they saw the Lord. Jesus said again to them, "Peace be with you. As the Father had sent me, so I send you." When he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven. If you retain the sins of any, they are retained." But Thomas, who was called a twin, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We've seen the Lord." But he said unto them, "Unless I see the mark of the nails on his hands, and I can put my finger in the mark of the nails, and my hand in his side, I will not believe." A week later, his disciples were again in the house, and Thomas was with them. All the doors were shut. Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here in my hands. Reach out. Put your hand in my side. Do not doubt, but believe." "My Lord and my God," Jesus said to him, "have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen, yet have come to believe." Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of the disciples, you all know this, which are not written in this book, but these are written so that they may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God. And through believing, you may have life in his name. Now, a week ago, we celebrated the resurrection, right? There comes a time, however, when we must live the resurrection. That's not always easy. These are days when we've all done this. These are days when we just prefer to stay in bed, pull the covers over our head, close out the world. Some days it's just easier and safer to lock the doors of our house and avoid the circumstances and the people in our lives, right? Sometimes we just want to run away. We want to hide. We don't want to deal with the reality in our life. Every time, however, that we shut the doors in our life, our mind, and our heart, what do? We imprison ourselves, right? Every person, event, or idea that we lock out, regardless of the reason, we lock ourselves in. That's what has happened to these disciples in today's gospel. Easter evening, the first day of the week, the day of the resurrection, the day they saw the empty tomb, the day Mary Magdalene announced, "I have seen the Lord." The disciples are all gathered in the house. The doors are locked. They're locked with fear. A week later, they're all in the same place. It's the same house, the same walls, the same closed doors, the same locks. Nothing much has really changed. Jesus' tomb is open and empty, but the disciples, well, the house is closed, the doors are closed, they're locked tight. The house has become their tomb. Jesus is on the loose. The disciples are bound in fear. The disciples have separated themselves and their lives from the reality of Jesus' resurrection. Their doors of faith have been completely closed. They've shut their eyes to the reality of the life that is now different. They've blocked out Mary Magdalene's words of faith, hope, and love. They've left empty the tomb of Jesus and entered their own tombs of fear, doubt, and blindness. The locked doors have become the great stone sealing their tomb. They've locked themselves in. The doors of our tombs are always locked from the inside. All this has happened, and it's only been a week. Now I wonder, 1 week after Easter, is our life any different? Ask yourself, where are we living? Are we living in the freedom and the joy of the resurrection, or are we living behind those closed doors? How is our life different after Easter? And if it isn't, what are the locked doors doing to our life, our heart, and our mind? When John describes the house, the doors, the locks, he's speaking about more than just physical house and walls. Hinges, deadbolts. He's describing the interior of the disciples. The locked places of our lives are always more about what is going on inside than what's going on around us. What are the closed places in your life? What keeps you in your tomb? Maybe like the disciples, it's fear. Maybe it's questions or disbelief, or the conditions that we place on our faith. Perhaps it's sorrow and loss. Maybe the wounds are so deep that it just doesn't seem worth the risk to step outside. For others, it could be just simply anger and resentment. Some, all the time, we see this. Some are just simply unwilling to open up to new ideas and possibilities and change. Change can be very difficult. But you know what? Jesus is always entering into those locked places in our lives. He always comes Eastering in us. Unexpected, sometimes uninvited, and sometimes even unwanted. He steps right into our closed lives, our closed hearts, our closed minds. Standing among us He offers peace, and he breathes new life into us. He doesn't open the door for us, but he gives us all that we need so that we might open the doors to a new life, a new creation, a new way of being. This is happening all the time. Now, you've seen it on the news, you've seen it everywhere. Throughout the storm-ravaged South, we've got strangers becoming friends. Individuality is giving way to unity. And hope lies in the midst of destruction. Christ stands among his people and says, "Peace be with you." Breathing life into what looks lifeless. Every week, right here in this community, more than 500 families are fed by Branson food pantries. The boundaries of race, economics, education, and language fall away as guests and volunteers feed each other with food, smiles, conversation, and most of all, prayer. In the midst of that feeding, Christ enters saying, "Peace be with you." The winds of change are blowing, my friends. Peace be with you. His breath carries us through the day, one day at a time. Regardless of the circumstances, Jesus shows up bringing peace, offering peace, embodying peace. Regardless of the circumstances, Jesus shows up bringing life, offering life, embodying life. Life and peace are resurrection reality. They do not necessarily change the circumstances in our life and in our world. Because you guys know as well as I do, tornadoes will still form. The hungry will still need to be fed. Loved ones will still die. The life and peace of Jesus' resurrection enable us to meet and live through those circumstances. He gives us peace. His breath, his life, sends us out so that we are free to unlock the doors of our lives and step outside. God bless you, my friends.